My name is David Baumrind, and I live here in Springs. I've been here for about 8 years. We're in the Springs Fire Department, the firehouse, and I am the paramedic supervisor here since 2016, and I volunteered here as a paramedic before that. It was a very stressful time. I know there's that ancient proverb, may you live in interesting times, and it certainly was that. And it started rather innocuously. I mean, I remember the first reports about it, and I also remember there was scares of Ebola and SARS. There had been different times where there were threats of a potential pandemic. That never really came to be. So I do remember wondering if this was just another one of those instances, but then of course, rather quickly, everything ramped up and it was not anything we had faced before. You know, as soon as it became apparent that this was a very serious threat, we very quickly developed procedures to follow. Getting supplies, of course, was very important, and just figuring out how we were going to keep everybody safe. So we got prepared quickly. We have in this community, we're not picking up patients from doctor's offices because we don't really have a lot of medical facilities up here. So we're going into residential houses where we don't really know what the situation is, and we don't know who could be exposed and if any precautions had already been taken. So we would have to be very careful about that. And you know, it's a small community. Everybody cares about each other, and we really just wanted to take care of everybody the best we could, you know, and be compassionate during a difficult time, because a lot of people were getting sick and dying, as you know, and it was hard. It was a couple, and one half of the couple had been sick, and we took them to the hospital, and it didn't seem overly serious at the time. You just never really know how that was going to go. It was relatively early on in the pandemic, but this person clearly needed to be in the hospital and get taken care of. And the hospital had put in very strict visiting rights. It was complete isolation and quarantine. So I remember distinctly the other partner, you know, saying goodbye and giving a loving kiss, and when us having to tell them they weren't allowed into the ER at this time. And, you know, we took their partner to the hospital, and that ended up being the last time that they saw each other. So that was very difficult. It's still difficult for me to think about, and if you ask me if something sticks with me, that will always stick with me. I have to tell you, everybody just kept stepping up. It was remarkable to watch and to be a part of. I mean, for me, it's my job, so I don't think I deserve the same credit as the volunteers. They are taking their own time to come and help in a pandemic where they don't have to do it, and they really are the unsung heroes, I think, of handling this pandemic, especially in this, you know, small community of ours. For me personally, exercise, eat well, try and stay healthy, spend quality time with my son, things like that. I had a lot of friends of mine that, because everything got shut down, had an opportunity for downtime where they got to really explore some areas of their life that they maybe didn't get to or didn't have time for. But for me and others on the front line, it was the opposite. You know, we were busier in a much more stressful situation, so it became imperative just to really try and stay fit and keep ourselves safe. I have learned that people who work in EMS, particularly volunteers, are extremely brave and giving people, and the need to act quickly. When you get new information and it becomes apparent that the situation is changing and it's more serious than maybe it was previously thought, that you really have to step up the preparations in-house to basically have a plan in mind, but yet not be rigid, because things change so quickly, and what you thought was the best plan of action last week, this week may not be. It's hard to be in a situation where you have to have a really solid plan, yet at the same time be very fluid and being willing to change things quickly and adapt. I remember when it was happening early on, a lot of people came from the city, and but that also had unintended consequences here. You know, the population all of a sudden surged at a time where we were already a little bit stressed. So it just, you know, it just presented another set of challenges. But I certainly understand why people, you know, why people made that decision. I did not live in the city at the time, but I have in the past, and I can imagine that would be a scary place to be when a pandemic breaks out. Anybody who does the job on the front lines, we really saw the level of sickness and death that was happening from the virus. And what sticks with me, just if people were not affected directly by that, it was easy to not know how serious it really was. Resilience, that's the word for me. We went through a very challenging time, not only directly because of the virus, but people lost their jobs, they lost the ability to work, they lost the ability to pay their bills, and just so many things happened that were incredibly hard for so many people. But here we are, you know, coming through hopefully the other side of it. And I think when times get challenging like this, even though not everybody's going to agree on everything, everybody does pull together and manages to get themselves through it, individually and also as a community. And I think that says an awful lot of good things about humanity and who we are as a people.